Okay, now we move on to our next part, which is to identify and symbolize the following general propositions. This is also very simple. Let us take all the three of them. Let's start with not every human is difficult. And they will give you hx comma dx and small x comma dx small x. Okay, this is how they will give you. Now what this hx and dx means is that hx stands for human, h stands for human, d stands for difficult. Okay, x is a variable and h is the proposition type, the term of the proposition. So now here two things have to be understood, or I have to tell you first before we can go ahead. So there are two types of something called a quantifiers. We know the quantifiers are all, no, some are, or some are not. So we have two more quantifiers called, represented by this symbol, the mirrored A, and the other represented by mirrored E, that is the image of the E, image of the A. If I had put a mirror here, it would have looked like this. If I had put a mirror here, it would have looked like this. E would have looked like this. Alright, so this is known as universal quantifier, and this is known as existential quantifier. Existential. Okay, universal quantifier and existential quantifier. Now universal quantifier means it states for all x, and existential quantifier states there exists an x such that, these two things you will have to just understand, not even remember. For all x, this is what it means. The symbol represents for all x, and the existential quantifier symbol represents there exists an x such that. Only up till this line you remember this only, then we'll take it forward and I'll explain what it means. So here, not every human, so first we need to determine whether it is a universal or existential. So not every human is difficult. Is this, are they talking about every, that is all, or are they talking about some? So we have every. Every means, and what is not? Not means negation. Every means all. Human is H. Difficult is D. Okay. So we write X here, X here, X here. Okay. Now whenever we use all quantifier, we have to, it is an implication, it implies. Okay, it implies. So we have to use the implies symbol and then close the bracket here. This is how we make the symbolization of the general proposition. Not every human is difficult. This one. Okay. Next. So this is how we'll take more examples. I'll solve more examples with you, so you'll get a hang of how to write it. This is as simple as I can explain, because this is what I have understood. So I can explain as a student to you all, not as a teacher, because I'm not a teacher. I'm trying to help others as well, as it helps me. I hope it helps others also, other students also, my friends also, who are appearing for their first year SEM 1 BALLB logic paper, elementary logic paper for Mumbai University. Okay, do consider. I don't need to tell you, if you have reached this place, I'm sure you must have subscribed, liked, and shared it with your friends also, because I am sure you would like, as you, I think you benefited. So if you have benefited, you should share it with others. There are good professors, logic professors, but can't say for all. So this is again one, we are again entering into logic only. All and some. Okay, so we have covered this. I'll take up more examples. I'll give you more examples, and we'll solve them also quickly to understand how to write it in the symbolic form, the general propositions. Okay, not every human is difficult. Hx dx. If they've given you like this, then we have to use universal quantifier or existential quantifier. This is the universal quantifier for all x. Existential quantifier, there exists an x such that. I'll keep coming back to this. Okay, so now once we have done this, what are we more supposed to do? Let's check the question. First, we have to identify the general proposition and also symbolize it. So we have already symbolized it. Now, how do we identify this general proposition? So we have to state, this is the first part of symbolization. Second part is the type. So type is universal quantifier. So this is universal quantifier. Okay, because we are using the mirrored A image, mirrored A symbol. So now how do we, what else do we have to write here in the exams? So we have to write first, before we write the universal quantifier, we can write for this, in continuation for this part, we have to write hx. We have to define what is hx. hx is x is a human. Okay, hx is x is a human. Dx is x is difficult. X is difficult. This is what you have to write under something called a domain, or you can write as terms also. So we have to tell it what is hx and dx. This is what they are telling us to type out. So x is a human, x is difficult. So how do we read this? For the C, for the existential we use for all x. So how do we start with? For all x, for then we have negation here also. Okay, so for all the people who are not x here, x is a human implies x is difficult. Now here they have said negated. So x is a universal quantifier. Okay, and hx implies dx. So if x is a human, means implies x is difficult, but now they are saying not difficult. Here it means it is difficult in this particular part. Okay, in this particular part it's saying it is difficult, but when we quantify it, all are not difficult. Not every human being is difficult. So not every human being, not every x, and x is a human, and x is not difficult, implies x is not difficult. So whenever we are using universal quantifier, we have to use the implication symbol, and whenever we are using existential quantifier, we have to use the conjunction symbol. All right, next let us take the next question. So this is done. we're done with our first question. Let's take the second one. A few women are emotional. Alright. So what do we have to find? We have to find three things. One is symbolize it. Symbolize the general proposition. Then find its type. And then create the domain or the term, what it means. Alright. So we had W, X, comma, EX. WX and EX. So we have to state what is WX and EX. So first we need to know whether this is a existential or universal. A few means some. For some we'll use existential quantifier. Okay. A few women are, this is a affirmative, that is on the positive side. Woman, here we have to write where, that is domain where WX is a woman and EX are emotional. Okay. Now this is the okay. So we write EX and we have to use the AND symbol, as I stated earlier here, that if it is a universal quantifier then we have to use the implies symbol, and if it's an existential quantifier we have to use the conjunction or the AND symbol. Alright, so we have WX and EX, which means that there, how we read this is that earlier I mentioned here, this is to be read as like this: there exists an X such that, so we start, there exists an X, there exists an X such that if X is a woman and X such that X is a woman and X is emotional or are emotional. So this is how you write it. I hope you got this. Okay, next we'll take up, so we have covered all the three parts, we have explained, and we can say that this is an existential quantifier. This is an existential quantifier. Okay, that is, you write the entire sentence and then say that it is of existential quantifier type, because this proposition is of existential quantifier type. So this would be our second form, this is the third part, and this is our first part, where we first explain what is WX and EX, and then we symbolize it, and then we explain what type of proposition it is. Now let's go on to the third one. All animals are rational. Now this is very simple. All means universal, so the symbol will be used for all animals. Now we have animals and we have rational, so they will give you AX, comma RX. Okay, so this has to be written AX RX. Now what did I tell you? If you are using universal quantifier, we have to use the implies symbol. And how do we, so this is one part where we have symbolized it. Okay, now this is second part is this is we have to also write where ax is, what is it, animal. Ax is animal and Rx is rational. Rx are rational. So how do we read this now? The third part we have to write is this is an existential statement is of universal quantifier type proposition. Okay, and we have written this also, we have written the symbol also, we have written the universal quantifier type also. So we have written three of them. And if you have to read this, then what it means is you can write fourth also. If you have time, you can write 4 also. That what it means, what this 1 means, one number. One number means for all x, if x is an animal, then x are rational. To write this may be better. Similarly, for the above one, we can write there exists an x such that x is woman and x are emotional. There exists an x such that x is a woman and x are emotional. So this will be for the part 2 here. This is an explanation of the part 2, which is this one. There exists an x such that x is a woman and x are emotional. Alright. Next, let's look at the first part. Not every human is difficult. For this also we can write down our statement. Because this is a universal quantifier, we write for all x, because we have implication also here, implies, we have to write if x is human, then x, we have to write small x, then x is difficult. For all x, if x is human, then x is difficult. And then we have to also use the negation symbol, right? So it means for not all x, if x is a human, because we are solving the first one, we are writing the description of the first one, how to read it. For not all x, if x is a human, then x is difficult. Okay, or we can just write like this. Another way of writing this is for all x, if x is a human, then x is not difficult. I would prefer the first one because this is how it exactly goes. So we completed not, that is universal quantifier, and existential quantifier also. Now these statements can also come in different substituted words for all, none, ever, forever, and so on. So those separate video I've created for propositional um, substitute words. Do check that out. So I'm bringing more 15 challenging propositions for the different type of proposition variations. So we have the first proposition type. All students are hardworking. All means universal quantifier, all x. Sx means x is a student. Hx means x is hardworking. And how do we symbolize it? Is whenever you're using universal quantifier, you have to use the implication symbol. And then Sx, Hx. How do we read this? For all x, if x is a student, then the x are hardworking, or x is hardworking. Okay, next one. No birds can swim. No means universal. It is also universal only. So universal quantifier. Bx is bird. Swx, or you can even write s also. Just you don't need to write sw. Sx, which means x can swim. Symbolization implies no birds can. Oh, okay. So we have negation here. So no birds can swim. So we have to use the negation symbol here. We can use this symbol also. So for all x, if x is a bird, then it implies that it cannot swim. X cannot swim. X can swim. First, when we write it in the domain, we have to write it as positive, can swim. But when we are symbolizing it, we have to write it in positive and then negate it. Cannot swim. Swim, cannot swim. Like this. Alright. Next is some cars are not electric. X is a car, Cx is a car, Ex is electric. Now some means existential. Okay. And when we use existential, we have to use the and symbol. And for not, we have to use the negation symbol, which is this one. Now we can use this one also, but as far as book, our elementary logic book is concerned, they have put in this symbol. Okay. This is also compatible, but it's up to individual what they want to do. Okay. So how do we read this? There exists an x such that if x is a car, x is car and x is not electric. Fourth, every philosopher is wise. Every means all. Universal quantifier. Px is x is philosopher. Wx is x is wise. For all x, if x is a philosopher, then it implies that x is wise. Some dogs are, some means existential quantifier. R is a positive one, so there is no negation symbol. So you have to be careful. Where there is not, we have to use a negation symbol also. Dx is a dog, fx is friendly. So there exists an x such that x is a dog and x is friendly. Okay. No one is perfect. No one means universal. Every. No one means everybody included. No. Px is a person, fx is perfect. So since no one is perfect means no person is perfect. So we have to also find if the other one is missing, we have to add that. Otherwise, how will we create the symbolic form? So no one is perfect means no person is perfect. So Px is a person, and for perfect we can take another symbol, Fx for example. Until unless we state it, it doesn't matter. We can even write Tx or whatever matches, we have to write that. X is perfect. So here it says no one is perfect, means it's negating. So for all x, if x is a person, then it implies that x is not perfect. Some musicians are not talented. Some means existential. Existential means we have to use the conjunction symbol, and not means we have to use the negation symbol. Talented is tx, musician is mx. So we are done with all our conversion. Next is all. All is universal quantifier. Birds is bx. Fly is fx. Are creatures. All. So ax means implies. So we are done here. Some trees are tall. So some means existential quantifier. Existential quantifier means you have to use the end symbol. Tree means tx. Tall means hx. We can, because both are starting with tt, we can either use trx and tax just to distinguish between the two, or we can use any other symbol also. Height, for example, tall means height, so hx also. So we are done with this. This is a positive one, so there will be no negation. No humans, no means negation, and humans are immortal. So first we write humans are immortal. They are immortal, and then we write no, not immortal. So they are not immortal, and then no means a universal quantifier. And when we use universal quantifier, we'll use the implication symbol also. Implies. Some artist, some is existential. If we are existential, we'll use the and symbol, conjunction symbol. Artist is ax, famous is fx, r is positive, so there will be no negation symbol. Every cat is independent. This is also positive statement, affirmative statement. Every means all. Cat is cx, independent is ix. If it is universal, then it means it is implication symbol. Next, no politicians are honest. No. Now there will be a negation symbol here. So no means universal quantifier. Once we use the universal quantifier, we have to use the implication symbol. Then politicians is px, honest is hx, and no politicians are honest means politicians are not honest. So not honest. No, not honest. Some actors are not hardworking. Not hardworking means negation symbol. Hardworking actors. Some means existential. Existential means we have to use the conjunction symbol. Last, all scientists are logical. All means universal quantifier. Scientist is sx, logical is lx. Since it is universal, we will use the imply symbol. This is for the entire test that you can go through in your spare time. If you have get more time, you can go through this. Hold on for some time. So I've given you enough exercises to cover up and brush up your skills on converting general propositions into quantifiers, either universal or existential, along with their symbolization, and also how to write the domains. I've explained how to write the domains also, and also the entire statement of what it means, how to read this. Hope this has also helped you. Now let's move on to the next topic.